So I was like, I better quit now because I could have kept eating it, and everybody else was waiting because my wife, she's like, all right, Dad gets the first portion no matter what. Nobody touches the oxtails until he gets his portion. Then once he's done, then you can kind of get in and get yours. So
Is that
everybody
how
was
your
waiting.
family goes?
What? Yeah, yeah. It's definitely it's a delicacy. Obviously, I don't have it all the time, but definitely she makes it on my birthday, especially for me, or like I said, Father's Day, special occasions and whatnot. She'll make it. She'll make it for me. But I try not to eat, obviously too much of it because, like I said, I can tear it up. So yeah. But it was very delicious. The meat was very tender and whatnot, so it was just great. So she did that, and then my daughters also got into the action. They hooked me up. They gave me a 10-pack massage package. So I
Nice.
used my first one today, and I needed it. I hadn't had a massage since like the winter. And so usually I tend to wait. In fact, I bought one of my own anyway. That's kind of surprised me with it because I bought me like a 5-pack to kind of get started with. And because I was really, my back was getting stiffed up and whatnot. I was impounding weights. So I need to certainly get my body sort of broken up a little bit. And so I was looking to go anyway. And then they said today, oh, we got you one as well. So I'm good well through the summer into the fall with the massage packages and whatnot, and so I'm really grateful for them to do that. So finally it's to the point now they're starting to spend some money on me now. So that's a cool thing about it, as well at this point
Comes around eventually,
in their
man.
lives.
That's one thing I
Yeah, yeah,
know.
yeah. So I'm getting the
Always comes
benefit of
around.
that, and I was like, you know what? But you guys don't have to take me out, don't take me to dinner or anything like that. But just any things like that they do. And I really appreciate it. And I try to get better at telling them kind of if I'm in need, but I'm at a point now where I'm almost like I'm not in need of anything pretty much. And if I told them the next thing I'll probably need is like a lawnmower. So I got a gas one right now and it might be on this last leg. So I said, if I do get another one, I may get an electric. Um,
Why don't you get one of those Android ones that cut the grass itself?
Now, honestly, I prefer, that's my cardio right there. So I'll mow my grass like a couple times a week, and I like getting out there, and that's just another form of exercise. That's just another way, an opportunity for me to get out there and stay active. If I really want to hype it up, certainly I will put a weight vest on and really sweat it out, put a headband on, and really just kind of get out there and work it out that way. So I still enjoy the manual. Takes me about an hour plus, about an hour and a half. If I do like all the trimming and edging and everything, about an hour and a half. But that's just good work for me. And again, why pay a guy, $100 a week to do that, or why I can still do it myself and I'm still capable of doing it. So I'm not ready for the and I'm not. Someone said, "Why don't you get a rider?" I don't think my property is big enough for a rider. Although one of my
Oh
neighbors, he does have a
no, I don't
rider,
think
but
yours
I'm
makes
like,
it away.
I was like, I don't need that at this
What is it?
point.
Half an acre?
But what's that?
Half an
If that, it's like a third. So I mean, it's not that to even justify that. But yeah, I know a couple of my neighbors have them, but I'm like, nah, I'd rather get that exercise in, get that additional work in, and so it works out. So yeah, had a great day, and certainly just I'm a blessed man at this point. But yeah, let's get into this topic tonight. So again, the title of the show is basically, again, are you selfish? Is it selfish to have kids if you're not financially stable? Now, again, you brought up this topic earlier. Shout out to Seeking My Creator. He came in tonight. Certainly, the poor will have children regardless. So the title's going to hurt some feelings. Absolutely. But we're going to talk about that as well because, first of all, what made you think of this particular topic? What went into that, and then we can certainly start to chop it up.
So I made it very public over the years. I'm a chef. So being a chef at a nursery home at night, I work with a lot of kids, and
Mm-hmm.
I see a lot of kids. What's the word I'm looking for? They're knocked up,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not even 15 yet. Some of them are
15
just
of it. Wow.
yeah, and it's scary. So and I looked around and it just happened at full on Father's Day. It didn't. It just could. I didn't do it on purpose. It was like, oops, it fell on Father's Day kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And the more I look around, like more kids are having kids. And I was
Mm-hmm.
talking to one of my ex coworkers when I was working with her, and she goes, "I had kids young, so I can't be on the streets." I'm looking. I'm like,
What?
"That's the exact what I said.
Wow.
That is the opposite what we should be doing at, at your ages.
I
She's a lot older
agree.
than me,
Right.
and I'm 40. I don't want to be on this goddamn street. I don't want to be behind the computer on my on my Xbox or my Nintendos, and all that stuff.
Right.
And seeing all this, it's just obviously we are not living in a time that should be happy anymore. You should watch your back. If you don't have your 9mm on your shoulder and in your hand on the trigger, you're fucked at this point. That's how I feel in the world. The world is going downhill because all the racist shit is coming back, the sexiness, all everything that we fought to get to in the early 2000s that wasn't existing. You looked at it. If me and you met you back in 2001, and we had this conversation, about racism, and you're like, it doesn't exist. That was back in a day. Now we're back to that. I think this is very important. Even when I worked at bars, I see customers bring their kids because it's a bar restaurant. Okay, cool, whatever. The kid wasn't eating because he didn't have enough money. He just had enough money to get himself a beer. What is wrong with that picture? He did not have enough money to feed his kid, but he had enough money to get up one beer.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me what's wrong with that picture.
Yeah. I mean, I think the way I'm looking at this discussion tonight is I think we're certainly dealing with, I guess, some extremes in terms of obviously you have people who had no intention. Now, we did a show earlier, so if you guys in the chat, in the audience, if you guys want to go back, we did a show a couple months ago talking about, certainly the having children in this time, and that there's the growing trend, and it's a worldwide trend, it seems like, in a lot of developed nations. Japan probably being one of the biggest examples of that, where populations are just choosing or just opting out of having children. And, there's a lot of factors that go into that, and it's not just a financial decision. It's just people just don't want the responsibility. What if I raise a kid and the kid grows up bad? People enjoy their freedom. It's not to say that people aren't getting married, although those numbers are going down too a bit. But it's not so much that people aren't getting married as much as, again, people opting out. They'd rather be have their fur babies, have their dogs. They want to travel. They want to do all kinds of things outside of having children, just being sort of locked into that for like 18 to 20 years. And, so we talked about that on a prior show. This one, really, I guess we're going to be focusing really on the economic aspect of it. So I agree with you. I mean, teen pregnancy and whatnot. I mean, the first thing is like people aren't even thinking. I believe when it comes to the consequences of your actions, just kind of just having sex and not putting a condom on or any kind of control or protection and whatsoever. So I think certainly there's an element to that where people are just not ready for it. But even when I talk to older people, when I ask them the question, do you want to be a parent? So these are educated people. These are people who are not teenagers. These are into adulthood. People are starting to question that. And my thing is always, as I said on the last show, is that certainly please make sure that I believe the first and foremost thing when it comes to the parenting, that, again, children should be wanted. And if you're not 100% sure that you want to do this, that you're not worried about, for women, you're not worried about your biological clock ticking and whatnot. So it's like, yeah, I got to have a kid. But do you really want this responsibility for the long haul? And for guys especially, again, if you don't want to have children, then use the proper precautions and not get a girl pregnant. Because I think it's both their responsibilities, the man and the woman, to make sure that doesn't happen. And so, I certainly think that is very much a conversation that needs to be had with people. Why do you want to have children to begin with? If that is your plan, why do you want them? Because that's important also. It's like it's such a selfless act when done properly. But even people who have children, they do it for selfish reasons. You know what I mean? So it's really I think those type of conversations, I think they need to happen earlier than not. I think, before even your kids become teenagers, start to really have those conversations. Well, what does family life look like for you in the future in the future, before those things can go, before they go on. So I really, like I said, so I think that's one aspect of it. I think the teen pregnancy thing, I think that's a pretty easy one. But I have to look at, for older people, what is your expectation in terms of what do you think it costs to even raise a kid? Because I think some of these costs, I'm getting a lot of numbers. In fact, I'll show some stuff later on that, when you talk about the idea of financially stable, what does that even mean? Because the reality is, if you have a job, like what job, especially, coming out of the pandemic and whatnot, what job is considered stable? So does that mean that people just stop having kids altogether? So I think there's a conversation that also needs to be had with more mobilely upward people in terms of what do you think financial stability means in terms of having a child. And so to me, that's the other side of the coin. But what do you think of that so far? And, we can certainly, take on any part you want on the teen side or on the older side. Because again, that conversation needs to be had.
Teenagers are not thinking. And it amazes me how these kids nowadays, it's okay to go in raw dog in it. Not wearing, any kind of protection. I use my ex for a great fucking example. When she popped her cherry, her cherry got popped. She didn't use any protection. She got knocked out just like that. The first time she had sex, boom, she already had her first kid. That's how fast it was. So by that said, Hank says it best. Always protect yourself.
Mm-hmm. Protect yourself at all times. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, protect yourself all the time. And they're not doing that. And that is one of the problems. And I just don't understand. Because financially, what, a yearly, an infant may cost you what, 50, 60K a year? Right?
Well, it's interesting. Let's go into that a little bit. In fact, that's an excellent segue. Because I just put some stuff together, certainly before the show, as I usually try to do if I get. So here's some stuff coming up. CBS News just put this out a couple days ago. So this is from Smart Money. So a new analysis from Smart Access for data across 48 of the largest cities found out how much parents pay across the country on raising their children. The answer: families on average spend $26,000 a year on child rearing costs. If you break it down by city, the most expensive cities to raise a child in, so again, Boston, Cambridge area, nearly $40,000. You see also in these areas the prices are increasing with each year. Again, San Francisco, San Jose, Seattle, Hartford, Connecticut, well over into the 30s, to the mid and upper 30s when it comes to child rearing. Some of the cheapest places in the country, again, some of the places that you would expect in the South: Birmingham, Alabama; Memphis, Tennessee; Franklin, Tennessee; Georgia, Texas. Again, around 20,000. So even then, I'm still curious about what's making up these numbers. Where they're getting these numbers from. So again, I did a little more digging, and here's just a cost breakout from another website, Financial Connections. And it talks about the breakdown. So again, raising a child, like over time, how much are you spending? So again, so much for housing, how much for insurance, childcare, and similar activities. But look at the big pie being, obviously housing being a big chunk of that, food also being a big chunk of that. So you're talking about, well over $1 million plus, almost $2 million to raise a child. But my thing is, you and I can probably safely assume that we got here, and I don't think our parents even sniffed $1 million in their lifetime in order to get us here. So sometimes I'm asking myself, what is the, what is going into these numbers? Why are people spending so much on having kids? And is it so much about the kids, or is it about the lifestyle? Question that we need to start analyzing here. Here's another breakdown: average costs. This is based on a household income of $78,580 a year. Again, 33% on housing, 13% on food, 11% on childcare, 17% on transportation, 8% healthcare, 18% on everything else. This is from Ally Financial Services. Again, we're also seeing the rising cost since 1990. The cost of childcare that has been skyrocketing as of late. So people, even for professional people, who are dependent on childcare, at least until the child is eligible for either pre-K or first grade. So again, those costs have certainly been increasing over time. And then again, here's just another breakdown, just in terms of the monies that people are spending. But then I'm still asking the question though. Again, why do you think it? Do you have to incur the sort of cost that you have to incur? And I know a lot of parents who are fairly well off, and what they tell me about what they're spending on, I'm like, these were things that weren't even options for us. Certainly back in the day, it just wasn't. Like, I know what my friends tell me they spend on for their sons' sports activities and travel football and baseball and all these things. I mean, they're spending like a lot of money. Just bats, like the cost of a baseball bat is like $400 a bat. I'm saying, like, really? I mean, like I said, there's no way we could have participated in activities like that going up. So I'm asking myself, is it so much the idea of the cost, or is it more so about what we're spending more so than anything? Are people, I remember one barbershop show, Black Man, he played a video of this couple, and they were like in like West Virginia or something like that. I mean, kind of like, I don't want to stereotype, but kind of almost like trailer park type of thing. They had a couple kids, but I don't think they made more than $50,000 a year. But they were making it work.
Don't forget, the average home makes about 55,000 an average home.
Right, I'm saying, but they were making average money. And it certainly didn't deter them from having kids. And I certainly wouldn't call those people selfish. I mean, first of all, it was a husband and wife. They seemed like they were able to give the kids the necessities that they needed. But I'm also wondering, is it about the necessities or is it about luxuries where these prices are getting overinflated? I mean, you could be like two careers but if you're spending like all this crazy money on childcare, is it really worth it? I remember when my wife and I, when we decided we were going to have kids, just based on our income, we already had, and this is like, going back over 20 some years ago, if she wasn't making at least 50,000, you're staying home, because any money that she would have made from work, it would have went immediately into childcare costs back then, let alone the transportation costs to getting back and forth to work and all those things that were broken down on the slides. So I said, you know what, stay home. And it was better for us tax wise, because again, when you file jointly for two incomes, your tax burden is higher as a percentage of your income when you do that. And so I'm thinking all these extra things that for the it's like everybody wants to have everything. You want to have your two income career. You want to live in these posher, nicer places. You want your kids to have the best of this and the best of that. You want them to have the best clothes and all these things. But in terms of what a child needs, not what you want or what you may think may want them in, do you actually need these things in order to raise a child? So again, like I said, on one end we have, like I said, teen pregnancy, child pregnancy. Yeah, to raise a child that you're not in a position to even be a parent, let alone financially, but your mindset is even thinking about having kids. But for those who are what we would consider above average income or well above average income, and you're like, it seems like the price of raising children is being overinflated to such a degree that it doesn't seem viable for people.
So here's my little pushback on that whole presidential speech you just gave. Is I actually spoke to somebody who has 3 kids prior to this, and I made sure I always kept that comment a mental note. And I asked him, dude, like, how do you get prepare yourself financially for a kid one day? I asked him straight up. He goes, "It's simple." He starts laughing. He goes, "That's the easiest question anybody ever asked me." You're not. I'm like, shit, that was fast. You didn't fucking think about that shit. You're never fucking ready financially or mentally. He goes, me. Because when you found out I was a father at first, I was in shock, scared as fuck. Then I was excited. Then I realized, oh fuck, this little bastards are gonna cost me an arm and a goddamn leg. Like I said, 55,000. Scale showed about what, around 30,000, I believe it said, right, Paul? So I wasn't too off, to be honest with you.
Yeah, as far as depending on where you live, some of the higher cities they didn't even have New York there in the top 5, but like New York City, yeah, I would imagine that your costs would be high. But again, that's all conditional too, based on your living situation. Do you have parents living with you? Do you have multi-generational homes? Like I know, like I live in my whole neighborhood is full of Latino families that are multi-generational, people living together, cohabitating. So are we talking about the so-called typical double income dink family, professional family, or whatever, going out there working, paying for all these different things that some of these blended families don't? So I think we have to look at some of that nuance as well, because you have families, especially Latinos, which is again the fastest growing population in the country. That they're also the lowest in terms of household median income. They're the lowest. Black people make more, Asians make more, white people make more than Latinos, and yet they're still doing it. I pass by every day. I see kids getting on the buses to go to school. So I'm thinking, and these folks are not making this kind of crazy money that that they can afford, but they're somehow making it work. So I'm just wondering then, what is the cost to really having kids?
Funny thing you said that, because you see these kids, these little 5-year-olds and 10-year-olds and 15-year-olds, they have better shoes than me. I'm like lagging. I'm like,
Yeah.
How the hell you wearing Jordans that cost $500 and I'm wearing a $20 old beat up shoe every fucking day? I scratch my head. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I guess I take it. But and that makes you laugh because like you said, they make it work. There's no excuses how not to make it work. Listen, you made a decision to put your little wiener in her to get her pregnant, out protecting yourself. You should take the responsibility to pay for that kid. And I cannot stand when I hear, men who are fathers who fucking jump ship and did not have to do nothing with their kid. They're not even financially, not even a penny. And that pisses me the fuck off every time, because there are other men out there who want to be fathers very well. Oh, it's really bad and really well fathers, good fathers, shape, way, or form, like myself. And you see men out there who are not responsible. So to me, you go get your little surgery, snip your shit, and don't worry about having kids. There's nothing wrong with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, look, I think the responsibility is shared. I mean, there's like 20-some forms of birth control out there as well. Women, again, men may have sex, but again, women decide. Even with some of the prohibitions in the country now, women still, for the most part, still decide if they want to be pregnant or not. You still have in a lot of areas, whether your religious views on the topic or whatever of deletions and whatnot, you still have that option if you want to bring a child into the world. And so, again, for both, I'm asking both of them, why do you want to have kids if you want to have kids at all? And again, if you're going to have them, then again, what is the real cost? I said, to your point, does your kid have to have Jordans? Does your kid have to have designer? I remember couples breaking up because the wife wanted her kids to only wear designer clothing and whatnot. The father was like, look, this is too expensive. We can't afford this. But for her, it was about a lifestyle that she wanted. Do you have to take your kids in a G-Wagon? Now, again, ideal. I mean, if you could afford that, then sure. But again, how much of this child raising is based on what we want as individuals? How much of this has to deal with our own materialism, that we want certain things, we want a certain standard of living for ourselves, and if we have kids to kind of go with that, then so be it. But are we compromising the fact that, again, the population numbers are decreasing, people are choosing not to have children, we see what kind of consequences that's going to have on some of these economies, is there going to be a long-term cost when people are deciding to have, or if you have a kid, you just had like one kid. And then what's that going to do to families long term? The number's 2.1. You got to have 2.1 children in order to maintain the population to keep it stable. And if you're not going to do that, then again, you're going to get a population that's going to age out. We all hear about what's going to happen to Social Security. We're all going to hear about, the funds drying up and, all that kind of stuff. And like I said, what's happening in Asia right now. And I know Seeking My Creative was talking about with Japan with, there's economic issues with people having families. But again, there's other ways to do it. Like I said, blended families, communal families. There's all different types of ways you can do this, but it just seems like here you want, and you have to have your retirement plan, your 401k. You got to have 2 million saved up at retirement. You got to have your vacations and trips every year as well. So I don't know what is, so again, that whole financially stable, I think that's a question that for me, I'm still looking for an answer to what people look at. If you're talking about if you lose a job, are you talking about having a certain amount of money that you could live off before you get another job? Are you talking about being, or having your own business? I mean, what is the criteria that we're basing the financial stability on? Whereas in generations past, you have families that didn't have nothing, and families were larger. My grandfather came from my father's side came from 13. My mom came from 9. They grew up poor as on a farm, agrarian society, and they were still able to put their people through. My wife, her mom and dad were blue collar people, and they were able to raise 6, and 6 of those kids have master's degrees. So again, I don't know what the criteria is for stability, that everybody's chasing something and thinking, well, I got to get myself into this right position financially, not only before I have kids, before I even marry someone. And I'm like, what happened with that? Because the longest marriages I know were the cheapest. Where the people I know have been married 40, 50 years, when they got married, they had nothing. Well, they had very little. They lived in a cheap apartment building, and they got there so far off the street. And one couple I know, their first time they were in the building, they got robbed that night. They weren't in the nicest neighborhood, but everyone now is like, I got to get all my ducks in a row. I got to make sure I got my 6 figures. I got to make sure I got my,
because my ex used to say that to me all the time. I want stability. And after we broke up, one day, it was like a year and a half later, I looked around, like, she had stability. She had a roof over her head. She had food on the table. She got wherever she fucking wanted, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
So what more stability you need after that? Like I hate when people say I want stability, but you already have it. You're living in a house. Your bills are paid. You have roof. You got roof. You got water. You got electric. You got heat. You got what else you fucking want? Like, I don't understand why people hear that. I need stability. Like, you do have it. Wake up and look at it. You're living it every single fucking day. That annoys the shit out when I hear I want stability. Like, you have it.
Yeah. Or just go to another country. Like I said, the times I've went out of the country, I went, when we went to on the cruise in December, we stopped in Dominican Republic and in Bahamas and all these places. Again, standard of living is not nearly what it is here, but people still have families, and there's still a culture down there. So the idea is almost like an American value that you have to have a certain financial status to be successful. I just don't see where that comes from, but that's just sort of been inbred into us. That again, I got to have all these things, or you don't get married yet, or and I hear it even on my one of my daughters. She's like, "Oh yeah, I got to have certain things before I get married." I'm like, "Why can't you just marry at the bottom and build together to get those things? You might even get there faster if you have someone who you're doing it with, and you build something." But it's like, all these expectations have to be met prior to considering the institution, let alone children. So I think, just our financial priorities, I tend to question when it comes to these issues. I can't afford to have children. Again, what are we basing that on? I think is a general question that I'm having.
That is the question of the day, of the night. Excuse me. Is what are we basing that off? Because I don't think we base it on anything except fantasies. Because again, if you have everything, you found a person you love, you want to get married to them, what's holding you back? Oh, I want to finish school. Why can't you finish school when you guys together?
Exactly. When I was when I was in college, they had student housing specifically for married couples. A lot of these couples were international and foreign. Like the dorm that I lived in, they had a dorm that was next door. You had toys and bicycles and stuff. Kids, you had kids running around and whatnot. These are masters and above people living in communal housing, getting their masters and whatnot. A lot of these were Asians and whatnot. They were getting their degrees and having their families at the same time. So again, I don't understand that everyone's always saying, I have to do this and I have to do that and I got to get this going. I got to get this going before you make these sort of life, these life decisions. And then you wonder why it's harder. Okay, you're 30, 32 years old. Okay, now I'm going to get married now. But the problem with that, I think, is that you've been living so independency for so long. Can you even live with anybody now? Because you created your own lane, you created your own space and whatnot, and it's harder for these older people to kind of cohabitate, the two becoming one. And they say, okay, well, you keep your stuff over here, and I keep my stuff over here. We got separate bank accounts and whatnot. But if you married at the bottom, and you realize that, look, there's one bank account, and all the money goes in here, and that everything is shared assets. But for older people, it's like, no, this is my money. I made this money, and I did this, and I did that. And you wonder why these people can't stay together or either not get married or they get divorced over financial issues because they have totally different financial parties. They didn't build anything together. And so again, for the older people, 30, 35, and now you want to talk about getting married, it's going to be tougher for you when you were kind of young and dumb and get married in your early 20s. That might have been a better deal than waiting for something, and then you realize, oh, okay, I'm running out of time now. I got to do something about it. But can you even cohabitate with anybody at this point?
So I'm going to answer that question the best way I can, because I'm kind of in that situation if you really think about it. So can I live with somebody? Yes. Because the first time I lived with somebody, it was like, okay, cool, whatever. It was comfortable because we had the room and everything. The second time, it was a little fast and complicated because I ended up moving in her house first, and all my stuff ended up in the storage units. So I really had no fucking space. I had like 2 cabinets, and it felt always uncomfortable for me. It wasn't like my space, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So when we got we broke up and got back together, the second time around we moved in together it was in where I live now, but it was we made it. We reorganized an apartment around to make both of us comfortable, if that makes sense.
Mm.
So I had the office in the other room. This was the bedroom, but because this was the bigger room, yada yada. You give and take, obviously. So, in living with somebody, yes, I can do it, but not everybody's like me. And like one thing, me and her used to argue all the time. Like when we, I thought we had to work some things through before we said, the final I do shit. And one of the things we're arguing was the bank account problem. Like, listen, I don't think we should have separate bank accounts. I think we should have one big bank account.
One pot. Yep.
Yeah, and she argued that.
Mm-hmm.
And people jumped in the middle and trying to, kind of like, here, why don't you have 3 accounts? Like, have your personal ones, 2 personal, and 1 big one. I'm like, I can compromise with that, but she was not going to compromise with that. To go like we're going, but you know what? You want one person to pay for all the bills, but you don't want to add all the money either. So that's why you didn't want to get the same account. That's what it came down to. You wanted me to pay for everything. So I found out the truth. And that's why I'm a big fan of having one share account. If you don't want to have one share account, have one share account, both checks go in. Then you can transfer whatever you want out, 40, 50, 100 is for your spending for the week and stuff. Because you don't want to fuck up the bills, obviously. But if you don't have that share account, something's going to go missing, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That's my opinion again.
Yeah, but I think that the fact that there wasn't like a melding of the minds. You guys couldn't get on the same page financially, in part because, again, you guys were raised probably very differently. Absolutely. You have different financial values, and certainly that's going to rear its head whether you, in your case, before children came or if you had children afterwards. You're going to have those clashes on financial values. And if I think that really is something that has to be worked out first before you consider having before you having children. So I don't even know if it's so much about the amount, but again, are your oars rowing in the same direction? You want your kid, you want to live here. You want your kids to go to this school. You want to go, I've heard discussions again. Do you want your kids in public school? Do you want them in charter school? Do you want them in private school? I mean, again, I got Rutgers Prep just down the street from me. It's like $40,000 annually to get your kids into the school. So again, all these private programs. Then the earlier point that Stephanie McCoy made, I talked about this earlier. It's the sports thing. Now again, you played high school sports. You might have did some summer programs or whatnot, but the big rig right now, the big money maker again is all these travel teams, travel baseball, all these private clubs. Baseball lessons. It's like these guys think that their son is going to be the next Barry Bonds or something like that. And so you're spending all this money on coaches. You're spending $400 for a bat. You're spending all this money, and then you're traveling. You're traveling to to Florida and Texas and all these places to compete in on all these tournaments and everything, hoping to and again, and for what? At the end of the day, is this making your child better? I've known a lot of dads who invested a lot of time in their sons and daughters in all of these different activities. And my thing I'm asking is, what is the ROI on that investment? I mean, have they shout out to Lost in Translation in the build tonight. Appreciate you being here, sir. But I'm thinking again, granted, certainly for a child to have these opportunities, I think is a great thing. But again, at the end of the day, are they really going to be that much further along in life because they were able to play on these teams? When again, the chance of you getting drafted to a minor league ball club or getting to the major leagues or the pros of any sport is like a fraction of a percentage of you getting there. But everyone is just spending all this money on trying to think that their kid's going to be the next Michael Jordan or something like that, and they're not. But they say, oh, well, it keeps them out of trouble. And the thing that I'm also seeing with a lot of these kids is that they don't have any skills. Like, they haven't had a job. Like, all my kids, when they turned 16, they all got jobs. All of them. We basically said, we also, said, it's like, look, we're going to give you a floor of what we're responsible for. Obviously, we're responsible for your housing, your shelter, your food, your insurance, all those base necessities. When it came to things like clothes, we gave them a floor. Like, we'll give you $50 towards any pair of shoes or sneakers that you want. But if you want the $150 Air Force Ones, you got to have to work for that. So I wasn't going to have them. So again, all my daughters, they've been working since 16 years of age. So again, that work ethic is there. But for a lot of these kids, kids got them in so many activities all year round. Again, we used to have seasons where, again, you would have an off season. You'd work in the summer and then come back to basketball, for example, in the fall. And a lot of these kids, they've never had a job. So again, you want to talk about, are you truly preparing your kids for life when you have them in dance? Okay, so you've had your daughter in dance from age 8 to 18, spending thousands of dollars a year on dance lessons. Again, is that going to get her into a better position to have a career or anything else? Are you going to get at least a scholarship? I mean, even scholarship money isn't going to be necessarily available for some of these things that parents involve their kids in. Yeah, so unless you're D1 basketball, or in fact now with the NCAA and the new rules that just came out. In fact, we talked about that on the One-on-One Sports Show. You guys can certainly go back and watch that One-on-One Sports Show on the Black Man Unfiltered Network Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We talked about that in last segment. There's some new rules that's been instituted in the NCAA where there's certain monies that's going to be allocated, but the people who are going to benefit are going to be these big Power 4, Power 5 conferences with these big teams that already have money already. Those guys get the best players and in the best situations, and the biggest sports at those schools are the ones that are going to be getting the bulk of the money. So again, you have your kid in dance, or you have your kid in soccer or some other activity, yeah, it was certainly a good activity for them, but how's it going to benefit them at the end of the day? Are they scholarship level athletes? Again, that's a very small segment of the population. So yeah, that's a major part of it.
Because when I was teaching martial arts, I had a student of mine. Her mom used to come up to me and goes, "My daughter is the next Bruce Lee. She's gonna kick back. She's gonna make movies. All of this." I'm like, sure, lady, whatever you say. Don't get me wrong. The daughter was extremely fucking good. You know, she and I hate to say this, she was Asian, but she was good. I give the daughter credit. I remember we were at the Scranton Master Cup tournament, and she wasn't doing that good that day. It happens sometimes, you know, right? And her mom's flipping out, says, "You know how to do this. You can do better." Blah blah. She stopped in the middle of the tournament, turned around, looked at her mom. "I am doing the best I can. Leave me alone, Mom." I dropped my jaw. The judges dropped their jaw. Like, went and leaned over to me and goes, "She's your student, right?" And I, She learned from you. And like, She goes, "Good job." I looked over like, oh, great. I'm going to get an argument with her.
Right.
So the next day I did get an argument. She goes, "You know, you need to discipline that girl right now." I'm like, "No, I'm not. I'm actually very proud of her. I'm very fucking proud of her." Just like that one to her. You know, I am sick and tired of you trying to tell me how to teach my class and how to do everything with her. She's doing the best she can. Stop putting all this expectation and pressure on the young lady, because this is where she crashes. If you think she's going to be the next Bruce Lee and put that expectation, she's never going to be that Bruce Lee. Let her be a kid and have fun. If you don't like it, get the fuck out of my dojo. Next day, her husband comes in. And he goes to me, "You said to my wife?" I'm like, You're like, "You really said that?" Like, I'm like, I thought I'm gonna go hands on to this guy. He goes,
yeah, you got to.
"Thank you." I'm like, "Oh, cool." I'm like, he shook my hand for it. I'm like, because everybody was scared to say anything to her. You know what I'm saying? Because she had, this is her lifestyle. She had a plan. You know, most Asian families, from my understanding, please correct me, Paul, I know you kind of know more about this than I do, is you got to go to school this time, you got to do this at this time, is a structure in their lifestyle.
Yeah.
And in the States, there is no structure like that. It's like a little more freedom than that. And
well, like I said, certainly, I think the sporting aspect, I think it's certainly something that American parents will definitely have their kids more involved in. Even the foreign parents, again, once they get established here, they kind of become part of the culture as well. And then they start spending on some of these priorities also. But yeah, it's really the like I said, I'm really curious about, again, what's driving, what do the parents see for their kid?
Another YouTuber I have mentioned on the channel, Daisy Bearder, about beer, whatever. He talks about his kids a lot. His kids are really into soccer. He travels the country to take them to different tournaments and stuff like that. But he's also very realistic end of the day. He goes, he can say they're going to be the next, whoever is the mega player soccer. I'm not sure, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
He's realistic about it. Like, they enjoy it. He's been a good father traveling around with them to take them to the events. It's summertime and he can afford it, whatever. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. But he doesn't have, like, my kid is going to be the next, soccer, NBA, whatever, World Cup master. He's being realistic about it, at least. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But when you hear this expectation in front of these kids, because you cannot afford the lifestyle you want, and you want to put on the kids, they're going to be the next NBA, they're going to buy me a car.
Yeah, look, there have been some parents. There was one case, I think this mother actually sued her son because I think he got into the professional leagues. I think it was basketball or football. Got into the professional leagues, and I guess she was under the assumption that there would be some sort of financial arrangement because of everything that she poured into her son, I guess, to get into this position. And I guess she was looking for some recompense for the quote unquote investment that she put into her child. And apparently there was like a lawsuit over that, where she sued him because he didn't take care of her in the way, and he might have gave her something. He might have bought her a house or something like that. And I guess she was just looking for more. And but her rationale was, based on, look, this is what I've done. Now, part of it is, look, you're a parent. You chose to have the kid. You chose to, put your kid into these activities. That's on you. But again, some of these parents do have an expectation that, look, I want my kid to get into the major leagues and whatnot, because they're looking at their kids as their retirement plan, versus just a kid kind of go off and just be certainly who they need to be. So it's definitely it's an intention with with the parents doing that. And you've seen, there have been documentaries on that. These dads who push their kids. I know back in the day there was this quarterback, Tom Marinovich, from the '80s. They used to call him Robo Quarterback because his father had him working out since he was like 18 years old, doing push-ups and presses and all kinds of stuff like that. And and really, once he got to the college level, by the time he did get to the pros, which he eventually did, he kind of flamed out, and he just kind of had a negative view of sports in general overall. But his father was just so driven for him to be this next great athlete. So again, certain things you can only push a child only so much when it comes to these things. You can't control that. But yeah, so parents have all. So again, even if you have the kids, there's going to be some selfish motives as to why you have them. And like I said, sometimes women will have children because they think they have to have them. I'm 35. I have no kids yet. I better get on this thing and I better have some kids. You don't look at the man that you're marrying. You're not necessarily looking at the long term. You just said, look, I just need to, I need somebody. And I'm always saying to myself, it's like, look, you should certainly be married to someone, I think, for a while before you even consider having kids. My wife and I, we were very intentional. We said we were going to be married for 3 years without kids. Now, part of that is because our courtship was relatively short. From the time I met my wife to the time I married her was 10 months. So we didn't have a long courtship. We didn't cohabitate. We didn't live together. We didn't do any of that stuff. So I thought it was important for us to see that, are we compatible enough to bring children into the world? Because again, certainly I came from a past and a childhood where, again, my parents weren't necessarily, for reasons oftentimes not even their own fault, but they were not equipped to be, the parents I needed them to be. But certainly, my wife's family wasn't the most stable either. So we definitely wanted to be sure. We wanted to make sure that, we're going to be good, because again, kids is not going to improve your relationship. Kids will stress your relationship. And if your relationship on the outset isn't good, then again, adding children to the mix is not going to improve it. And so we were very intentional about that. But that's my big message to everybody. It's like, be more intentional. Whether you choose to have kids or not, I would rather someone say, you know what, I just don't want children, because I don't think I have the temperament, I don't have the character, I don't have the patience to be a parent. I think it's better for a person to have that full admission and conversation, rather than having kids that you then, in the back of your mind, subconsciously or not, you may even hate having.
So it was one of my chefs. When I first got into the professional cooking part of my career, and his name was Steve, Chef Steve. When I met him, he was about to get married, and he was working 2 jobs, and his wife was working 2 jobs to just pay for the fucking wedding. They were going to DR. They rented this whole hotel. They rented it out. I'm looking at him like, how the fuck you afford all this shit, bro?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, the numbers he was giving, and this is back early 2000, 2010s, the early 2010s.
Right.
And I'm looking at him like, how the fuck are you? I want to know how you're fucking affording this, bro. Seriously, like
that's another factor. I mean, obviously last was it last week or the week before? I was at a wedding. I mean, so
2 weeks ago.
Like I said, we were the venue, gorgeous, the food, immaculate. Mm-hmm. And I'm just thinking, this costs a lot of money. And again, for these kids who certainly who got married, I don't even think they recognize how much went into. I mean, I'm sure they know the price, but again, the sacrifice that had to be made by the parents to sort of make that wedding happen. But again, if you were to take that, who says that you have to have a 30, 40, $50,000 wedding? If you were to take that money and put it into, let's say, if you're worried about kids, what if you put that money into a savings, a college savings account? You put that kind of money in up front, and by the time the kid turns 18, what is that? What is that savings account going to be like when they when they turn 18? So you're worried about expenses for college. Well, there you go, right there.
The funny thing about that was once his wedding was over, he resigned, and I saw him about 2 months afterwards. And he lives in my area too, so we're just bullshitting. I just, funny thing, we were getting gyros, both of us. I go, "Hey, what the fuck you doing down here, bro?" I go, "Well, my wife is craving gyros." Oh, like, craving? He goes, "Yeah, she's already knocked up." Like, how the fuck that happened so fast, bro? You've been married only 2 months. He goes, like, she was in a hurry. I really did. It was her way or no way. I'm like, a little bit too fast, my opinion. Hey, he's still married with 2 beautiful kids and a whole house and everything. Like, sometimes you've been wrong too, boy. It works sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
Like, it just makes you think sometimes.
Yeah.
Like,
I want to have just highlight here. Shout out to Intelligent Neanderthal Caveman in the building. Again, thank you for coming through tonight. It's a biological narrative to produce. Now, I know our guy, Reckless Ray, he says the same thing. Honestly, I disagree with that. I don't think it's necessarily a desire to reproduce. I think it's a natural thing to want to, the act of producing. I think we're just sexual people. But as far as having kids, especially again in today's narrative, in today's time, the more and more people who you talk to, again, having children is completely optional. And I've seen this especially with, again, immigrant families. So if you come from a culture of families and whatnot, but that was a natural thing, let them spend some time in the United States for any length of time. Let those children grow up in the United States. They're going to have very different values than that of their parents and those other people around them that they don't want to continue on, at least not at the rate, not at the size. They enjoy the benefits of that community. They love the gatherings and they love the social aspects and they love all those things. But do they want to have 3, 4, 5 children like generations in the past? No. 2 is like tops. So again, when I had 3, I'm in rare company. I know, very few people who even think about having more than 2 children. Even in my time growing up, have the boy and the girl and you're done. Nobody was thinking about 4 kids, 5. I want 5 kids. Unless you were devoutly Catholic or Mormon or some other, conservative religious sect where you take the imperative to be fruitful and multiply literally. Those people may have larger families, very conservative values, but the general population, 2 kids, maybe 2. 1 for sure, maybe 2. That seems to be the kind of the norm for everybody. And I just looked up the average cost of a wedding in the United States on average is $33,000 on average. So again, what if you took that money and you put that into something else that could facilitate having a family, putting that into a down payment on a house, or putting that into an educational fund for kids, certainly down the road. But for one day that most people are going to forget about a few months later, you want to spend all this money on a particular event. So again, I put a lot of this on, again, what are the value sets of those individuals when we talk about having kids? Is that selfish? The fact that you want this big wedding, is that in and of itself a selfish act?
I think a selfish act. Again, maybe I'm crazy here. Yes, the big wedding. I definitely think that's definitely a selfish act. But when you have this expectation for your kids, you gotta go Harvard. You gotta be the next Michael Jordan. You have to be the next um, whoever hockey player. You know what I'm saying? When you put this expectation on sports and things to do, or you got to be a lawyer, a doctor, let me be fucking kids. Stop putting expectations. Let it just roll with it. Sometimes rolling the punch is the best way to do things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, just to clarify, again, I'm with you. I'm not going to tell people that they can't have children because of money. That's my point. Society tends to be saying, oh yeah, to have kids, you're going to need $250 million plus. You're going to need $40,000 a year. You're going to have this. You're going to have that to have kids. And again, there are communities within this country, Latinos, like I said earlier, who are at the low end of the economic totem pole. Don't seem to be having any problems with having kids. A sensitive subject for me because I heard all the time because I don't, and I feel for you in that regard. Totally. Just like my man, Peter certainly is the desire of his heart to have children also. So yes, I'm never going to push back on someone saying you shouldn't have kids. My only thing is, again, just like you and just like Peter, you should be very clear on what it is that you want. And I'm saying you have on one end, you have too many people who are having children that did not want them. And then you have the people on the other side who say they want kids, but then at the same time, there's these economic pressures saying you have to have this, and that in order to have them. So I think there's a lot of perspectives here that are just off.
It's some people who say they want kids, but they couldn't have kids.
Yeah, and certainly in Intelligent Caveman's situation and whatnot. Yeah, and obviously you have certainly have intention. Women can't conceive and whatnot. We've met people over the years who took years. Again, the money. I mean, fertility treatments that women go through. I mean, again, it's very expensive when undergoing those treatments to try to try to have children. So again, we recognize that that for some people it's so important to them to have them, but then you have people who could have them that choose not to, and again, a lot of it is because of selfish reasons. They don't want to give up their lifestyle in order to have children, and so again, so there's a lot of different agents here. There's a lot of different views and opinions here on this subject, but just getting to the general question, is it selfish to have kids if you're not financially stable? To me, unless you define what financial stability is, I'm going to say no. It's not selfish to have kids, regardless of what you're whatever you want to say it. I mean, in the African American community, most kids are born out of wedlock. Most kids are born to single parent. Again, we may not like that. Certainly, you would love the 2-parent household dynamic or the communal dynamic, which a lot of people are advocating today, that we need to have more sort of tribal type communities, not necessarily bound by just this model of husband, wife, and children, have like a communal approach, whatever you want to call it. No one is saying that no, you shouldn't have children during this time. At least you're not hearing that here. But certainly, I don't think it's selfish. If you guys are kind of struggling a little bit, I know a guy. In fact, the fastest wedding that I ever went to was 16 minutes.
I think you told me the story before.
Yeah, 16 minutes. I have it on video. And they're still married. They got 2 kids. Are they the most financially well off? I don't think so. But you got folks who got all the money in the world, as much money as they want. And they barely married a year. Well, they got all the money in the world. And their kids are still messed up. So, I don't know what situation is best. So I think this is, again, more a lifestyle choice, more so than you're going to use children as the excuse. But I think people need to be more honest. I like my luxuries. I like being able to travel. I like my house I like my luxury car, my expensive car, or cars. I like my freedom. And I think that, that's also driving a lot of this conversation. So as far as the question is concerned, I would say no. I don't think it's selfish to have kids when you're not financially stable, because, what all our channels are we talking about here?
So people don't want to give up on things. That's number one. We already established that part. Can we both agree on that, Paul?
Yeah.
But having a kid it shouldn't be a burden or a chore or anything like that stuff. It should be a gift to your lifestyle. So it'll be a blessing.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are people out there like myself, I want fucking kids. And you say, hey, no, you know what? No. So, okay. But when you have people who don't give a shit about changing their lifestyles a little bit. Listen, as long as I have a roof over my fucking head, a nice house, car gets from point A to point B, I'm straight. Even that car I have out there, I can downsize it. I'm cool with it.
Mm-hmm.
As long as, my family's take care of, that's the most important fucking thing to me. And that is where people will go wrong sometimes. Oh, I still need my Jordans. I still need my, Tom Figure this. I need my Kevin Klein. I need this and that. You don't need that.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you kick the bucket, you're not going to have that stuff, are you?
Can't take it with you. So for me, then the question, the way you're framing it is, the question is, how many people are willing to downsize their lifestyle to have children? So if you can't have it all, if you're not one of the blessed few, we still talk about only less than 10% in this percent of people in this country make over $100,000.
What the hell are you smoking? Because I'll give it more like 1% now at today's market.
Well, I'm just saying it's low. I'm saying the majority of people are not making six figures. Although everybody in YouTube seems to like they're making six figures. My thing is the majority of people are not. But again, let's say if you might be in that position, maybe a little bit higher, whatever, are you willing to, again, sacrifice some of that lifestyle to have children? And if you're not, then is that considered selfish? Then who's the selfish person then?
You are.
So I mean, so again, you can take.
It's 1% of people who can afford it. All right. Let's say.
But again, what does that mean?
Smith. Hang on. Jeffrey Smith, right? He can't afford it. But Michael Jordan over there, not a bad name. Dale Dicklinish over in the other side of the country, he cannot. Hey, I got to come over a fucking name here. I'm working what I got here. Fuck off.
BME is going to capture that. That's going to be a shortcoming.
I hope he captures that. And next time I go out to the barbershop, and that's where he comes up. Dicklinish is. And he better if he makes that a short, I want the clip.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, so the small dick mister over that side of the world, he only makes 50,000 a year on a good year, overtime. He can't afford something. Maybe he had downside, but he really wants to buy a house with family. That's the working man.
Mm-hmm.
Remember what one of the old wrestlers says, the working man? Remember that song?
Yeah.
And, it's nothing wrong with that. He made those sacrifices. He did what he knew. Maybe he made it work. Maybe his wife might have to work too. You know what I'm saying? Maybe, the in-laws have to move in with him or his parent or somebody. It's always a way. It's always a way.
Mm-hmm.
You have a will, it's a way. Very simple.
Yeah. Would you live in a trailer park? I mean, we went to South Carolina for a family reunion a couple years ago, and we got an Airbnb in this nice little it was a 3-bedroom trailer. It was nice. I mean, I'm looking at it, And I'm thinking like if like for a first house, right? Okay, it may not be like your dream house, although they built the deck onto the extension on a screened in fence and everything to keep the bugs out and all that or whatever. But I'm like, if I could just kind of roll back time and say this was an option to me, and I could have bought one of these things for a fraction of what a traditional in-ground home would be. I'm like, I was telling my wife, I was like, you know what, I could have been happy here. It was well kept. They had all the luxury appliances and everything. I mean, they had it had what's needed to have a home in. I mean, I've always been kind of very simple. I mean, most guys all give us a room with a TV and a kitchen and a refrigerator and plug up our Xbox or whatever it is and we're good. I mean, I realized just going in there that I didn't need much to have a substance or subsistence in that place. And I was telling my wife, this would have been a nice first home for us. We probably could have been here maybe 5 to 7 years, maybe had our first kids in there, and then maybe once the place got a little bit small, maybe we need to look for a bigger place or another place. But again, as a starter, I'm like, this was a nice little setup. And they've certainly come a long way, because when I was a kid, I lived in Georgia for a while, and a lot of my family members lived in trailers. That was like a big thing in the South. But these modern ones now, they're definitely up there. In terms of amenities and whatnot, we've seen, I think one barbershop show, we had a barbershop. We were talking about these homes, like $100,000 homes, almost like pop-up kind of locations or whatever. You can live out in the, maybe like in the woods or something like that. And it's like a home for like $100,000, like, these modular type of homes that could be set up in, a few days.
If that,
for a family, it's like, what? That's not a bad starter. But then how many women be like, well, look, I'm not living in that. Oops.
You right over there?
Yeah, I had a little something there. So I mean, people are like, I'm not living in that. But again, it doesn't have to be your future. And certainly, like I said, if you didn't spend $30,000 on a wedding, you can basically pay off half, if not a third of the place when you're there. Then sell that off and then do something else. So I'm not saying you don't have, again, have a start, but everybody wants to start at the top. And I think that's, you'll be chasing that proverbial top. Oh, when I get to this part of my career, when I get into this position, when I get to this income level, when I get here, then I'll settle down, or then I'll have a family. And again, I think a lot of people are just shooting at something, and I don't know if they'll hit it or not. So I'm saying I don't think there's a perfect situation, but if we look at these extremes again, I'll reiterate, I don't think teenagers who certainly unequipped, you don't have a job. I think you have to have a floor, but I don't think you have to be at the top either. I think we have to come to some sort of balance in order to start a family. I just don't think it takes having all those things in order to do that. And shout out to Anissa. First of all, certainly appreciate. I'm not sure if you ever joined us on Gray Area before. I appreciate you being here tonight. Anissa, always a favorite. Certainly enjoyed many times sharing the platform, the Tuesday Talk Tuesdays on the BMU network. So I appreciate you having your comments here. You should not be having children if you cannot take care of basic necessities, in my opinion. I agree. The question is, what are we considering basic necessities? And I think for a lot of people, the floor for basic necessities is higher than I think what it necessarily needs to be. I mean, you should definitely be able to, again, have a floor. But again, what happened to back in the day when people, you were making minimal money, but you put your monies together and you had average money, and then you were able to build something with? What happened to that? But again, everybody wants to be at the top. I got to have 6 figures. I got to have my G-Wagon. I got to have 6 figures in the bank. I have to have this and I have to have that before I consider even getting married or having children. I think that mindset is wrecking a lot of people. Yeah, food, shelter, and healthcare. Again, it doesn't take a ton of money. What type of clothing are you talking about? You want designer brands? Or can you buy your clothes at Costco? People are like, I ain't buying clothes from Costco. My kids are too good for Costco. I've heard people say that. Healthcare, if you have a somewhat of a stable job, if you work at Costco, they have excellent benefits. That's why people work at Costco.
Stephanie, who was in our chat earlier, she works at BJ's and she makes
yeah, those wholesale chains, they have excellent benefits there for the employees.
Yeah, a couple of the rules she tells me she has to deal with is kind of weird in my opinion, but I have never worked in that type of field myself, so I cannot sit there and say yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. So I think people have and are doing it for less.
I think people are like using excuses. That's my issue. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Listen, first of all, let's get the bullshit out here. Let's have kids. Stop having fucking kids. That's number one problem. Let's stop that, right?
Yes.
If you need to put a lock around somebody's goddamn penis or put a thing around
bring back the what was that? The chastity belts. We need to bring chastity belts back.
Robin Hood and Men in Tights, the thing she was wearing with the lock
and
everything.
Yeah. It said bring the chastity belts back, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Whatever we have to bring back, let's do it. Let's like T-Mom was a great example. I was 16 and pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that was the worst show ever. It was supposed to be educate kids to stop having kids. But I did the opposite. I told kids, yo, go get fucked and get pregnant. Pretty much. That's how kids, I will get pregnant. I can get on that TV show now.
Mm-hmm.
It backfired. It was so backfired on people's faces. So let's stop there. Number one, all right? So when we get that out of the way, when they're old enough, Eric, have a good night, my man. When they're old enough, like 21, 22 maybe, maybe they should start thinking about having kids and take the key off, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But we're not thinking that. And that's why I think the worst all fucked up. Kids are having kids. And now when the kids are old enough, they're pretty much almost half. I feel like, okay, people say I am the prime age for kids right now because I'm in my 40s for a man.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not a kid raising a kid. When your kid is 18 and you're only 20, 29, it's,
you think you're still a kid at 29?
No, I'm saying people saying that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying like when your son is 18, you're 29 as a man. Okay, let me rephrase that. I think you're still a kid mentally to your 25.
Okay.
That's my personal opinion. I don't think your brain matures more than that. Yes, they say women matures faster than men. I'll give you that. Yes, I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
But is your mind mature enough at 25 to before 25 have a kid?
Mm-hmm.
Answer that question right now.
Yeah. Well, again, I would probably say it depends. I'm not ruling it out. I think that's probably a decent age to start. What kind of support are they getting? I think that's part of it. If you're talking about if they're strong male figures that are setting examples for them in terms of what that can be about, if you give them time. One of the things about these blended communities that I'm always talking about is because they have the same problems. When you talk about teen pregnancy, again, Latinos are amongst the lowest. They talk about the average pregnancy rate for a Latino woman is like 15. It's lower than black women. Yeah. It's lower than black women in terms of the age. But again, they build a community that is able to support and handle it. Mm-hmm. Men are around. It's not just and it's I think the difference there is, again, you don't have as much as with the single. I'm not saying everyone's married, but again, it's like the father is around. And a lot of times what happens is that kid is given an environment where he can build up. Okay, so you're going to be working a trade, you're going to be working something until you get up to where you can start taking care of your own.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I think if there's a support system, then I think you can have children younger. But I would still say give yourself some time. So let's just say you get married, you meet someone 21, 22, you get married. I would probably still stay, wait a couple years at least. Spend some time married. I think I'm big on that. I'm saying marry younger, but spend more time married single, and then have your kids. If I was going to paint like an ideal scenario, what I think would work really well for people. Because again, people talk about, oh, well, we lived together for years. And I don't care what people say about this. There's a huge difference. In fact, I was just hearing about something the other night. Couple got married less than 2 years, but they were together for 7. So if everyone says it's just a piece of paper, it's just there's a difference between cohabitating with somebody and being married to somebody. And I'm saying give yourself some marital time that you can really flesh some things out. And then, if that goes well, then start your family. So again, if you get married in your early 20s, well, about 25, 26 or whatever, yeah, you start having kids. If I was like, what's an idea? Like what I would want for my daughters. Now I got one going to medical school, so things may get pushed off a little bit for her in terms of that, but she's very much, wanting to have, be married and have family and whatnot. So that's definitely on her radar. But the other two, that's why I would say also around that age bracket is probably good to start, having kids. But give yourself some marital time. So I don't think it's too young if, let's say, you're 24, 25. But again, is your dad involved in your life? Was your dad always present in your life? Was he in the home with your mother, and you saw there what a man is supposed to be? Yeah, I have no problem with 24, 25 having children at 24, 25. Some of this manosphere stuff where they're talking about, a man doesn't come to his own until like 40, and kids, man shouldn't have kids until 40 and whatnot. I'm sorry, I don't go that far. And I think for the average person, I think that's an acceptable age to start a family and start, and start that process. But, some of these guys, it's like, yeah, if you think you want to be a corporate CEO or something like that, or mid 6-figure guy or whatever, and, you're going to be putting a bunch of hours in and whatnot. But again, that's not the majority of people. You talk about the 1%ers who are going to be in that category where they're going to have such demanding jobs and such demanding careers where that's going to be possible. The only thing that's caveat, and again, I may have to change a little bit, and this too, is military guys. That we've talked about that in many different spaces. A lot of military guys say it's not a good idea mostly, even though we got guys like CQ and we got Rob and, certainly guys that we know. But for a lot of these guys to get married young, but again, if you're not going to be around, if you're going to be deployed somewhere for long periods of time, that situation, I don't know if that's the best.
So CQ wasn't married and have kids after his service ended. It was years later.
Okay.
So he met Jenny as he was recovering from his injuries.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. You're right.
Yeah. Now, Rob is a little unique subject. I said that over a gray area, over a gray sprinkle area there, because he was a military brat and his wife was a military brat. So they knew how to work around that problem. All right. Now, King is another good example because he was married into the military, meaning he met his woman in high school, married her, thinking it was going to work out. He thought he was going to hold off for kids, and I'm having kids. Mm-hmm. Right after he found out he had a heart condition, before he got medically discharged, he was okay for a while, but they ended up separating and divorcing in the end. So it didn't work, and they worked together most of the time. Everywhere he went, she went, except where he was. His deployments are a little different. Air Force a little different versus other branches. So he was different. Does it work? Yes, it works. I know my buddy Wolfeye, before he passed, he made it work for years. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't the cheating was his wife cheated on him for a whole different reason. It wasn't because he was gone too long. Or finance was like it was a whole different story. That's a conversation
Right.
For another stream. But I know multiple guys that are deployed. They're some are special force, some are just regular army guys deployed for 18 months, 16 months. Make it work. They make it work. But when you go into a relationship, you have to understand one thing. And I cannot stress this enough because I have too many of my fucking friends getting hurt over this bullshit. If you cannot deal with the separation, him gone 18 months, and you're going to be mom and the dad for a little bit till he gets back, don't get into that relationship. End it right there on the spot. Don't have kids with him. Don't break his heart. Don't say I do. Say, hey, I'm out. This is not for my lifestyle. And that'll be more respectful than getting into a relationship, marrying a guy, having kids, and then halfway through the marriage, maybe 2-3 years, he's serving divorce papers when he's overseas. That is the worst thing you can do to anybody. And it happened to multiple of my friends. That's fucked up in my opinion.
Yeah. But just in general, though, the idea of an enlisted man marrying young, knowing he or she is going to be deployed overseas for long periods of time, is that even wise? Just for the average, I mean, I know we have exceptions. I know, like you said, the Rob comes from a military background. We know King's situation, but it's in general. If we were to ask those guys, is it wise? Mandrell's, I think, talked about it as all. Tommy B, also he's in the Navy, talked about it as well. If you're going to be in that situation, I don't think it's necessarily wise to even consider getting married, let alone having children. If you know you're not going to be around for certain periods, so that goes even beyond the financial aspect. A lot of it is about also are you available to be a parent at that time, knowing that knowing that you have these commitments that are going to take you away from your family for long periods of time, and there's no guarantee that you will come back anytime soon. Is that selfish, do you think, for a military man or woman to marry somebody knowing that they're going to be on deployment or long deployments away from their family? Is that a selfish act in your view?
That's a very hard question to ask because when you go into that relationship, if you knew that, no, I don't think it's selfish. If you're straight up, I'm in the military, I am Airborne Ranger, I'm Delta, I'm CEO, whatever your job requires to do. There's some jobs that you're not going to get deployed at all. It's rare if you do.
I'm talking about the deployed guys. You know, if you're in one of those units, you're going to be on deployment. Yeah. So when I thought about someone having a desk job at the Pentagon,
pretend you're a woman for a minute. You're an ugly ass fucking woman, by the way. But you're Paula. I met Paula. And I told Paula, hey, sweetheart. Damn, that's fucking weird. Call you fucking sweetheart. But seriously, I called you, sweetheart. Listen to me. I'm in the service. I might be deployed 18, 20 months, whatever the case is. If we continue our relationship, can you handle that? And you say no. I can respect that. Then we can go our separate ways because we're on mutualized. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But if you're saying to me, yeah, I can work it, let's do this. I knew that from the start. Okay, we got this then.
Mm-hmm.
You have that conversation. If you don't have that conversation, that's when you're selfish. You don't have that conversation.
Right.
And that's my personal goddamn opinion.
All right, now, but again, that's two separate things, though. The one you're talking about getting together with someone or marrying someone, but then again, having kids. Again, if you know you're going to be deployed for long periods of time, is it fair to have children? Because, like I said, it's two separate things. Having a family and getting married are two different things. But you have children, knowing that you would barely see your children grow up. Again, is that a selfish act in your view? Even if you know all that stuff there, again, the kid doesn't really have a say in this thing, right?
Yeah.
They're only going to know that dad's not around or mom's not around. That's all they're going to know.
I misunderstood the question, so I'm thinking now. Huh.
No, you got it right. I mean, you talked about the marriage aspect. And like I
No,
said,
that's right. Yeah,
I
yeah,
can understand that, but
yeah.
with marriage, oftentimes comes children.
It's a 50-50, I want to say, Paul. I think it is a 50-50 mix here because 50%, yeah, it is a little selfish. You're not being in the kid's life sometimes, a good percentage. And if you're a son, your father, the son needs his father at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But the other mix is like, it's not fair for him either. Make sense?
Yeah, explain that latter part.
Well, apart.
You said it's not the same for him. You talking about for the military person?
No, for his son. It's not fair for his son not to
It's
have
not
his
right.
father.
It's not fair for a son, right?
So it's a
So again,
mixture.
so is that selfish for that you're not going to be around for long periods of time? Listen, and forget military. What if you're a pilot, like one of those you fly international flight 747 for UPS? So you're gone for like half the month or 3 weeks out the month. One video I remember watching. There was like wife of an aviator, like a pilot like that. So what is your and she's, I said, obviously they had a family, obviously they made it work, but again, she admitted it is not an easy lifestyle because he is going to miss things because he's flying to Tokyo, he's flying to these big transatlantic flights and whatnot. He's home for stretches at a time. And he may have to come to a point to say, look, my kids are at a certain, or you could say my kids are at a certain age, my kids are becoming teenagers, and you might need to switch your occupation. You may have to go to something that's more 9 to 5. Maybe do local aviation, local private jets and whatnot, where you leave in the morning, you're home every night because you're flying like private Lear jets, corporate executives and whatnot, rather than the big jumbo jets flying all around the world. So again, some guys at some points you may have to do those sort of things. But certainly, for a military, when you know that you are an enlisted man, you're part of an infantry unit, and you're going to have these stations in different portions of the world, having children, that may not be the wisest move. We got certainly Coach Ferg, certainly in the building. So again, he's certainly former military. Not wise. Wait until you come home to marry. Even then, you may deploy. If wife is bad, she will put the family at risk. And again, we've heard this from other militaries at Mandrell. We've heard other guys talk about, maybe not their personal situation, but obviously guys that they know in service. The fact they go home and the kid that is with the woman, it may not even be theirs. So again,
don't
you
get
have
me started with that one. That's a whole different animal.
that's another that's another one. That isn't
Yeah. See, he's right. He's right in a good way. You should wait, but in the real world, are men going to wait? Let's be honest here, Paul. Are they going to wait? No, they're not going to fucking wait. We're as men and women too. We don't have patience as human beings. Let's be honest. I have zero.
Well, wait for it. We're talking about sex, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So when obviously you're firing your rockets right into her, something's going to fucking happen. Obviously. Mm-hmm. So it's not fair for you to say you should wait because most men are not going to wait. They're going to raw dog it and go for it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think he's saying wait to marry. He's not saying wait to have sex. He's saying wait to marry.
No. I'm getting to that point to get married and all that stuff. So you get her knocked up. Now what do? She doesn't believe in abortions. You're already grown feelings and like the not next logical. Let me wife her up, and I'll continue my military career. It happens more often than you think.
Mm-hmm.
Look what happened to my buddy, bro. This is a perfect story, perfect example. I told the story before. And what's father is like this. We're having a barbecue at his house. He gets a knock. And we used to joke around all the time, like, he's gonna I hate this day because somebody's gonna show up my day and say, I'm Dada. Like, I'm your son or something like shit like that. And knocks on the door. I open the door. I go, can I help you? He goes, is so-and-so living here? Like, yeah, who are you? Like I think he's my father. I'm like, this is gonna be funny. I thought it was hilarious because they didn't happen to me.
Mhm.
I thought his wife was going to kill him, but his wife was right. Understandable, because it was before they got married, before they knew each other.
Right.
So she popped out from nowhere. That's another situation right there.
Yeah.
How do you react if a kid just show up to your door? Like for example, someone knocks on your door before you met your wife, goes, "Hi, I'm your lost son, Paul."
Mhm.
And I'm like, how do you react to that?
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
serious.
I mean, it's
Is your wife gonna kill you?
How would I? She wouldn't be happy with it. She wouldn't care because I mean, obviously, if it came before her, then like what she's gonna do? I wasn't a virgin before I met her, so I mean, she knows all that. So if that did happen, yeah, it would be like, okay, guess who's coming to dinner, sort of thing. But certainly, yeah, military that could certainly be certainly a situation. Again, we've heard from many guys as far as the pitfalls that can come from that. But again, this idea of stable, maybe we shouldn't look at the question in terms of financial stability, because again, I think financial stability in a lot of ways is a moving target. Again, going back to what Anissa who posted earlier, again, food, shelter, clothing, healthcare. What food are you talking about? You need to shop at Whole Foods or your local Costco or your Walmart or whatever. What shelter? Do you have to live in the suburbs, or can a trailer in a trailer park, will that work?
I'll give you
What
a better
clothing?
Hang on.
Yeah.
The shelter thing. People are converting vans and RVs into full livable 24/7 homes now.
Yeah, but we're talking about having kids, though. We're talking
We're doing
about.
with kids too.
Well, that's true. Yeah, you do have you have those traveling families. I remember even in the 70s when you used to take those Volkswagen vans and whatnot and convert them into homes. So yeah, so those things certainly do happen.
I seen a guy, local person around my work area. He travels back up and down, and I spoke to him. A wife, a kid, 2 kids, a dog, and everything. He goes, the only thing I got to do is drop the kids off and drop the wife off to work, and then I go to work.
Yeah.
I guess schedule it. But if I want a second car, I just hook up a trailer in the back, full shower and everything. He has.
Yeah.
And
what if you lived out of a Winnebago?
I'm not sure where the Winnebago is.
What about the mobile the big vehicles that have the rooms and the sleeping beds and all that kind of stuff? The big RVs.
Yeah, RVs. That's what I said.
Yeah,
I don't have RVs. Whatever.
Yeah, so you got the ones that are standalone. You got the ones that got the trailer hitch on it. You hook up to a truck and drive it.
Yeah, the ones that are like semi. They look like semi. I call them
correct.
And
People right.
2 bedrooms.
Exactly. So again, would you be willing to live out of that?
Oh,
okay, so
I fucking love that actually. Like I'll be coming to visit you. Like, hey Paul, I'm like, I'm backing in. Hurry up. I'm like, your wife is gonna kill me. Probably. I'm back in that big fucking thing in your house.
Yeah,
that's a different story.
But if in fact I've known there have been people who have actually sold their standalone houses and all that kind of stuff once they get to a certain age because they want to travel the country.
Believe it or not, a lot of people are selling their homes now because they're tired of the taxes, they're tired of repairs, they're tired of this, they're tired of that. You get 50,000-60,000. You can get a nice customized RV.
That's right. Right.
It depends how much you want to do it. And right. It's one price forever. You can go anywhere with it.
Exactly. And like I said, and travel. Your ambition. You might want to travel to see the whole 50 states.
Yeah.
And some people are taking that move and make that option. Obviously, you can take it to Alaska, or you can take it to Alaska, probably not Hawaii or one of those, but again, those things are you could. What if you started out with that, and you guys decided could you do that? Again, your clothing, does it have to be designer from Macy's or JCPenney or whatever major department store brand, or could you go with the Costco store brand? And like I said, healthcare. Again, a lot of these jobs, Starbucks at least I don't know what they are now, but Starbucks used to have excellent healthcare benefits. So, and let's say, so you could be a contract worker, your spouse could be a contract worker, you're working at Starbucks, you're getting the benefits, They go out and make the money, their hourly rate or whatever. I mean, that's probably bringing 50, 60K into the house as a collective. You can make that work. So I think we have to talk about what kind of stability. So again, financial stability might be something that we may have to move off the table. I think stability in general, because it's not just about your finances, it's also about your position. Are you going to be physically available to be there for your family? And that's why, again, the military aspect comes into it. If neither one of those things is true, is there an extended family stability? And again, a lot of these other cultures come with that stability. So yeah, you may have a child in your teens, or you guys have a child without marriage or whatever, or you get married young but you don't have the means to live on your own, but you move into the house and you live in that house until you get to a certain level of financial stability to leave. So I think it's one of those things. There's cultural stability. There's, in terms of your positional stability, are you there? And yes, there may be a certain modicum of financial stability that is required. Either that's through yourself or through your parents or extended family that needs to be there. But I think in all those instances, I see no reason, and we see people having children and having families in that regard. But for some communities, people are thinking that I have to make six figures plus and have all these material things in order to have a child or children. And I think it's an extreme on both ends that I don't know if we're necessarily benefiting from when we have these schools of thought that are so divergent on the other side of that. But yeah, so I go back to my answer. I think it is not selfish to have children, but you have to make sure these other things, something has to be stable in your life in order to get this to work. And I think you can have kids that grow up relatively well adjusted, and certainly they can be very different from the backgrounds that they came from. I certainly am. A lot of guys, we didn't grow up having much, but we were able to certainly change our positions, change our financial situations, our marital status situations. We were able to change a lot of things because there were certain things that were stable. Not everything has to be lined up, but can you be lined up on some things? I think that's really what makes the difference. What's your thought on that, Pete?
Before I get into that, because I got curious when we were talking about the RV things. A brand new, most expensive brand new RV I seen sort of $142,000.
Still cheaper than a house, especially in my area.
Last one was $20,000.
Yeah, I mean a two bedroom condo in my area is like $500,000 easy.
Yeah,
in my area.
And $179,000 one I was looking at has 2 bedrooms. It's gonna fit your size family. It's gonna be crammed, obviously.
Right.
It has two bedrooms, a master bedroom, a shower, a toilet, laundry, everything. Even a living room. I'm like, yeah. Shit, I can see myself living into that shit.
Yeah.
Won't be ridiculous.
Again, as a starter. Like I said, start out. You might that may get you through your definitely through your first kid. But again, go back, folks. Go back at Black Man Unfiltered Network. It was a barbershop show. Take a look at some of these modular homes that did literally their homes. It's almost like an erector set. They set up these homes like in a couple weeks. Boom, the home is set up. It's like a pop top home that's set up.
Tesla. He's building his new portable homes kind of thing, like you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. Affordable home living, he calls the program.
Yeah.
That is the size of your house, pretty much what you're looking at, but half the price. Because the problem is, if you don't understand, when you build a brand new house, you have to add labor. The parts are not the expensive part. The permits and the labor, that's what fucks you.
Yeah.
Because you gotta get somebody to work their equipment. Equipment are expensive. They own the equipment already, these guys. It's getting the people to do everything.
Mm-hmm.
The contractors, because the company that built the house contracts everything out. So they have to make money too.
Yeah.
So that's why if it costs them to say $100,000 to get electricity on the house, they're gonna do $200,000 because they have to make the money off it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what it is. What was your question again? I'm sorry, Paul.
No, just the view on. I just I just forgot myself. No, but the
Wait,
idea of, like I said, I'm saying starting out in either one of those modular places or starting out with one of those homes. Oh, basically what it was is, again, you don't have to have everything stable, but you have to have certain things stable. If you can be stable culturally, financially, or just in terms of your availability, I think if one of those things, or maybe more than one, but as long as you have at least a couple of those things stable, I think you can certainly have children. And I think those children can thrive in environments like that. But I think something has to be stable along those lines. Financial stability, it doesn't necessarily have to be yours. It could be communal. The availability, the mentoring, the culture, the language. Like I said, that's why, again, you see again, multi-generational homes. The grandparents don't get into nursing homes. They live with the primary breadwinners, and then there's maybe some younger people who may be there to support as well. But again, that community can be a very nurturing place for children to grow up in. And so I definitely think as long as one of those things is there, I think it's very possible. And I think with some of these communities, they're proving it, and which is why, again, the demographics of the country are changing to such a degree where they are not only growing in population, but also, they could be growing certainly in power and in influence because they've been able to maintain, even though they, have similar problems, they've been able to maintain themselves because of that structure and values that they have.
so culture, yes, you need that. You definitely do that because if it depends if you're into a relationship that is two different cultures. So you got to find a balance in that, definitely. Financially, of course, you need to find some kind of balance. Make sure the lights are on, who's paying the bills,
Mm-hmm.
something like that. I think housing, obviously. Um, I think you get 3 out of 4. You're in super great condition.
Yeah.
You get only 2 out of 4. You get 4 out of 4. Shit. I
Yeah.
like to meet how the fuck you got that done. I don't want to meet the injury over your shoulder because as a
Yeah.
man, 4 out of 4 starting a new relationship with a new family, with new kids and everything, it's hard as fuck. And you know that better than I do, Paul, because you
Yeah.
had kids way before I even thought about kids.
Right.
So me being a single man who's been in a relationship with a woman who has kids before, you know, I was able to 2 out of 4.
Right. Now, let me ask you, how was she doing it? I guess before you got there. So she had kids, multiple. She had multiple kids, but she was. So So how was she able to pull that off?
So the first one was she got knocked up having her first one raw dog in it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
She married the
Mm-hmm.
guy. She said to me straight up, both of her exes have money. They had money. First one says they had money, but he was a mama's boy, lazy. She, the butler was doing everything. She goes, I couldn't live
Mm-hmm.
like that, and she was out. She literally jumped on a ship and on a plane. And came to the States
Yeah.
because she was already had American citizenship. So she got divorced like that, blah, 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 whatever. Now her second ex came in the picture. Maybe a few months later, she said to me, and she told me, I have a daughter, blah blah blah, whatever. Got married, so she had her first daughter, no, her son, and her second daughter back to back. So they only separated by a few months. Then years later, she had her youngest. A couple
Mm-hmm.
years later,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I always asked her, and this is the part I never understood. When it came to her fourth, her third, she had to count that from her third to the fourth one, they were having problems already. Personally, I would not get in someone's bed. They were at that
Yeah.
point they were sleeping in separate bedrooms, but at night she purposely got in the bed,
Mm-hmm.
and she goes, "Why?" I asked her, "Why did you have another kid with me if you were already having a problem?" He goes, "I'm stupid." That's all her response was. I'm just stupid.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's more to the story than that.
Mm-hmm.
She admitted to me once that she cheated on him. I personally think that kid, the fourth one is not her, not his, it's somebody else's.
Oh wow. Yeah.
That's my personal opinion.
Right.
That's an opinion, of course. I don't have no evidence to prove it. So anything like that. But over the years, she told me I never had to work. Towards the end, she had to work because they're done with each other pretty much.
Right.
And her first job was in her 40s. First job. She was always spoiled. She said it. Her mom and dad used to get her everything. Her first husband used to get her everything. Her second husband used to get everything. I was the one who said no. She did not. She was like, she looked at me like, what do you mean no? Like, yeah, you heard me fucking. The answer is no. I'm not doing that shit. We can't fucking afford it. Mm-hmm. When I said no, it was like Jesus that came back from back to earth. It was like incredible. Like, really? How do you say no to me? Like, simple, no. So, how she did it? She had a rich husband. Her first husband had property and all that stuff. She was taking care of it that way. The second one, same concept. You go the first several years, he really didn't have to work, but he would just keep himself busy just for spending money. People were sending him money from DR. He had enough money. He didn't have to live in America. He could live in DR very comfortably, but he picked the States.
Yeah. So it sounds like it's still on some levels. And again, I wish nothing but the best for the kids. That's an unstable situation. You know what I mean? So she's been married twice, and she has kids by possibly two other men on top of that. Again, what kind of environment that creates for, I guess, for the children that she has, and now she's in a position where I guess she doesn't have anybody, or certainly after you guys broke up, that I don't know what her situation was after that, but certainly now.
It's funny you mentioned that, Paul. It's very funny you mentioned this. Mm-hmm. I think it's hilarious, actually. So one day my phone rings. I didn't recognize the number. I go, all right. It was a New York number. I was thinking it was maybe somebody who's going on my dad because I get a lot of unknown numbers from New York from my dad. All right. So I answered it. All right. I'm like, I go, hello. You go, somebody pronounced me with my first name clearly. Like, nobody pronounces my name Panayotis clearly if you don't know me that well. Like, you do it because you practice. Close friends like CQ does it. King doesn't even does it. Right? He knows it for years.
Right.
It threw me up like, you go, who the fuck is this? And you know how I talk, Paul. You probably, I would say that. Mm-hmm. He goes, this is Lizzie. I'm like, click. She called me back like 10 times. I blocked her. She changed. She got a different number or what. She was trying to get hold of me really bad. This girl. I'm like, so eventually she gets. So I'm like, I finally gave in. I'm like, you want to talk? Let it out, whatever. So she's telling me she got remarried, blah blah blah. And I heard in the grapevine she got remarried after 6 months. We broke up, whatever, right? Mm-hmm. And I was having a conversation with CQ. I had a conversation with King. I had a bunch of people, like even David actually. And they go, why is she calling me? Because and everybody's saying the same thing. She's probably so unhappy in her marriage right now. She's regretting leaving you, and she wants to get back with you. Like, I already know that, but that ship is sail synced, and it has been destroyed a long time ago.
I'm just surprised at who's marrying her. I mean, the fact that she's been married, so she's on her third marriage, unless she hid all this stuff from the guy, and she's had multiple relationships over time. The fact that you have certain people, certain women, it seems like they have no problem getting married. I don't understand.
It gets even better. Her background story. So she went from her ex, like I said, her first ex, right into her second ex, to me. Like, if she doesn't take a break, she goes right into the relationship. Before it is actually done with the relationship, she's already into the next one. Already set the seeds for the next one. Mm-hmm. So that makes sense to me. You need time for yourself to.
Well, not only that, I'm talking about the guys coming into it, like you. Like, what was when you met her, she was a 2-time divorcee with kids. How many kids she had at the time?
She was one time, but separated at the time. She was about to get divorced.
Okay, well, yeah. I mean, it's I would still say that same thing. So, and how many kids did she have at the time?
She had 4.
4 kids.
Yes.
2-time divorcee.
Yeah.
What was the appeal of her to you? And then again, after you, she still was able to find a guy to marry 6 months later.
So originally, we went out for drinks, and originally we were talking, and she goes, She told me the whole story, and I told her I'm blunt. You know how blunt I am. I told her, listen, I'm not looking for a relationship. I'm like, if you want to bang, let's go bang. Very simple. She goes, that's what I want too. Okay, cool. We're on the same page. Yes, or 6 weeks later, I was in a relationship. I didn't even realize that. Didn't know what happened. She had a body on her. I'll give her that. She was a very beautiful woman. Like
that's my only thing. Either she had to be so hot, or something about, I don't know, was it to blame it on the sex or whatever, that she's able to, she's like a mermaid.
Of 3 things. It was, she was hot, sex was fucking awesome, and I could talk to her about everything. And the other part of it, I think it was when she came in my life, a lot of things were happening. It was like everything's falling apart in my life at the moment. You know, you ever go through this point in your life, like, shit, everything's falling apart. It doesn't matter what you do to try to put back the walls back up. You put this wall, oh shit, this one down. Then, oh no, hang. I put this one up. It was, all these walls are coming at me. Emotionally, I was fractured, and I did not know that at the time. Mm-hmm. So my dad was run over by a car. Then my parents were separated officially, finally. Then Hercules passed away, my dog, you know what I'm saying? So then I was getting into a new job, so I was not welcome with open arms there at all. But, and you know, I ended up kicking anybody's ass, and that's the whole time story. But it was that's only the tip of the iceberg. And she came into my life at that point, you know what I'm saying?
Right. Well, I'm saying, but she's had it 4 different, at least. We're not even counting all this stuff. I'm saying not you. I'm saying just in total. The fact that this woman has been able to be married at least 3 times and have these long-term relationships in the middle, knowing her marital history, knowing the fact that she has 4 kids by multiple men, all that drama, and still she's able to attract. So either, again, she must be, you talk about hot, that's probably like an understatement, extremely hot, or that, like you said, the sex has got to be like, you know, off the charts or something. But even then, to marry her though, you know what I mean? Because guys can go on and say, you know, guys will smash, but to then take it to the point where you want to live, so you're basically taking on her family, taking on her kids, taking on all these other things that go on with it. You're not the only one, is my point. That there've been other men have been willing to take it on, and I'm just trying to get into the mindset of why would a man walk willingly into that situation when he could have just left it at the smash level, which again seemed like she was onto, but I guess they just felt that it was just too good to let go. I don't know. Like I said, she's like a mermaid. She lures men to the depths and drowns them, and it's like you were able to get out before you got drowned. But certainly, I mean, that could have been a situation with you. That could have been a situation with you as well. But again, that might be a conversation we may have to have offline to talk about. I'm just saying. I mean, guys are starting to make decisions now. It's like, you know, avoiding baby mamas and avoiding different types of people or whatever. But she's still able to. She's still able to nab them.
This is the part I told her in terms of the end of the conversation. And, you know, obviously she wanted to, you know, like I felt that conversation didn't happen because we never both had our closure or we ended a relationship. And I told her my piece, and she didn't like what I said. I didn't give a shit, to be honest with you. And I told her straight up, like, listen, if I was your husband right this moment, find out you're talking to your ex-fiance or ex-husband, whoever, you'd have been a dead woman right now. I told her straight up. Because you would be on the fucking street and trying to figure where you live. Because I would have ripped your ass apart about it. And one thing I'm meeting her all the time, and good example, we're driving one day, her phone goes off. Like, what the fuck is it? I keep calling you every fucking, you send in a voice and call you. And I got annoyed. I'm like, give me the phone. And like, I took the phone out of her hands, like, why is your ex calling you? And why are you lying to me, telling me the telemarketer? And that pisses me the fuck off. Yeah, I'm gonna piss off your ex calling you, obviously, but I know you have kids. I'm not gonna be that pissed off. I don't like, you know, just do it through text. I told her.
Yeah.
But whatever. But again, you have no kids with me. You have no connections with me. You have nothing. Absolutely. Gotcha. We were able to separate it completely. You know, maybe you can pick the dog because we bought the dog together. But end of the day, he only listens to me. She knew she couldn't take him because she wouldn't listen to her.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't let her take her, to be honest with you, Paul.
Right.
Who's that? She
Hey
already-
man, like I said, we can take this over time. We're at nearly at the 2 hour mark, so we're going to end the show. Yeah, Marine Mindset Sense, kind of like Jennifer Lopez, but again, Jennifer doesn't even have kids, so the fact this woman's still to pull this off and have kids in tow and still got guys going after her, like I said, she must be a mermaid. But let's get into again final thoughts. Certainly as we wrap up the show. So again, I'll just start off. Again, is it selfish to have kids if you're not financially stable? Again, that's a very nuanced question. I think you need certain things stable: cultural stability, personal availability, and I think as long as you have those things, I think it's certainly possible. I don't think you need to have six figures to have kids. And people who just kind of put that off, I think it's about the lifestyle that they want rather than what's good for an environment to have children in. And it's their own selfish desires themselves to have more materialism than having kids. So that's my 2 cents on that. But Pete, real quick, you certainly wrap up your final thought.
I'm gonna keep it very simple to the point. Yes, you can have kids. If
Absolutely.
financial and everything else, you can figure it out. If you guys are both want, to bang, and you both want to have fucking little rugrats, if you guys want to know this shit, you can figure it out. Anything's possible. You put your minds together. Simple as that.
There you go. All right. We're going to do a quick exit on the show. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Again, make sure you hit the like button both here and on the Sparta HQ network. Certainly as we leave the building tonight, again, for myself, Mr. Bennett, and he is...
This is Sparta!
The Ghost of Sparta. This has been the great area. Again, hope for all the fathers out there. Happy Father's Day. And again, looking forward to the show next week. Take care. God bless. And we'll see you next time. Good night.